Alright, today we are going to do lesson 23, which is factoring polynomials. In this lesson, we are going to try and make these polynomials make it simpler, down to its lowest factors. Alright, so what you should do here is when you look at these first ones, your first rule should be looking at the problem and seeing, is there anything that I can take out? Well, this first one, x squared plus 6x plus 9, there's nothing at all there that you can take out. So, we're not going to have to worry about that. From there, if you can factor it, then if you follow these rules, that'll make it easier. We've got an x squared. The square is here, so then we would have two sets of parentheses. From there, we've got an x squared. That means that we're going to have two x's in our problems, and because it's first, it goes into the first two slots for both of them. From there, we can look at our signs. If this sign is positive, that means both of the signs in here are the same. We look at our first sign to tell us what it is. So, these are both pluses there. Now, if you take a look, we've done most of the problem, and we haven't done any math yet. From here, we just kind of fill in the numbers that work here. Well, what multiplies together to give us 9? It's 1 and 9, 3 and 3, or 9 and 1. Both signs are the same, so if you add those together, which is the only one that's going to give us 6? Well, that's 3 and 3. Now, if you go through this, you can always FOIL these two back together to see if you get the original. X squared plus 3x is 6x plus 9. So there are our two factors there. For our next one, a little bit different. First step, take out whatever you can. I see that we can take out a 6 here. So then we're take out a 6, that means divide everything by 6 there. And we make it much simpler down to that. Then from there, x squared gives us two sets of parentheses. Remember to bring your 6 down. X squared means x and x. Now here, the sign is a minus sign, so that means that our signs are going to be different here. It doesn't matter what order you put them in, but it will matter for when we try and get this positive 3 here. Now, from here, we need to say, all right, what two numbers multiplied together are going to give us 4? Well, that's 1 and 4, 2 and 2, and 4 and 1. Now, how I like to do these is I like to say, all right, because these two signs are different, what's going to subtract to give me a positive 3? Well, 4 minus 1 gives us that positive 3. So the 4 has to go with the plus sign, the 1 has to go with the minus sign. FOIL it back together, x squared minus 1x plus 4x gives us 3x minus 4. And then if we take 6 times each one of those, we end up with this. So those are its factors for that one. Down here, we've only got 2 terms here. Well, you do the same things. First thing you need to do is you need to see, well, can I take anything out? Well, I see you've got a negative 9 and a negative 12. Well, negative 3 goes into both of those. And then I've got an x cubed and an x. I can take out an x also. So then I'm left with 9x cubed divided by negative 3x gives us a positive 3x squared. 12x divided by 3x gives us a positive 4. All right. Sometimes you can go further on these, sometimes you can't. We've only got 2 terms here, so because of that, you can, whenever you have 2 terms, you can only factor it down by difference of 2 squares, or the sum or difference of 2 cubes. Well, this 3 here is not a perfect square or a perfect cube, so we can't do anything with that. So that's all the further we can go there. For our next one, we've got x squared plus 14x plus 49. X squared means 2 sets of parentheses, x and x. Sign here is positive, so they're the same. Then they're both pluses because of our first one. Then what multiplies together to give you 49 but adds together to give you 14? Well, 7 and 7 would make that work, wouldn't it? You can either write it like that, or if you wanted to be more concise, we could go x plus 7 squared. The whole thing is squared. Alright, either way is technically correct. It doesn't matter which way you want to write those down. Alright, for our next one. Alright, first step, can we take anything out? I don't see anything that we can take out. 9, the only thing that goes in there is 1, 3, and 9. Well, 3 doesn't go in here. 9 doesn't go in here, so there's nothing we can take out. From there, what do? Well, we've still got an x squared, so that means 2 sets of parentheses. We're going to have an x here and an x here. This one, sign here is plus, so they're the same. This tells us they're both plus. 25y squared. That y squared means we're going to have a y there and a y there. So now we just got to fill in the numbers. 9 is 1 and 9, 3 and 3, or 9 and 1. 25 is 1 and 25, 5 and 5, and 25 and 1. Now from here you just kind of have to guess to be able to figure these out. Say I wanted to try, well, I'm going to try a 1 and a 9 here, and then I'm going to try a 5 and a 5. Well, what we know for sure is we do get the outsides. So we get 9x squared, we also get 25y squared. But we got to get this 30xy. Well, we have, if we do the outers, we have 5xy plus 45xy. That gives us 50xy. Obviously, that's not correct. So what we have to do is we've got to try a different combination here. Alright, so let's say I don't want to do that combination again. Say I want to do a combination of, well, we're going to try 3 and 3 and 5 and 5. Let's see if that works. 15xy plus 15xy, there's our 30xy. So that has to be the right answer. Like I said, you can always FOIL them back together. 9x squared plus 15xy plus 15xy gives us 30xy plus 25y squared. So that gets us back to the original. With our next one, we've only got two terms here. So the only thing that we have done so far that has two terms is difference of two squares. Well, I have a perfect square here and a perfect square here. So that tells me I can do a difference of two squares. X squared is x and x. 9, square root of 9 is 3, so 3 and 3. One of these signs has to be plus, the other is a minus. When we FOIL this, x squared minus 3x plus 3x, those cancel, minus 9. So that gives us our two factors for that one also. For our next one, we've got an equals 0 here. Whenever we see that, we've got to be thinking, well, it's asking us to solve for x then. So, first thing we got to do is we got to set it equal to 0, which it already is. Remember, you always have to do that though. So if this 24 was over here, we would have to move that over there before we try to factor it. Then we want to see if we can factor. So we're taking a look at this here. What gives us that? Well, x squared means if we can factor it, it's x and x. Sign is a minus, so that means one's positive, one's negative. What multiplies together to give us 24 adds together to give us 2. Well, that's going to be a little bit harder because 24 has all sorts of options. 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. Not 5 or anything, but then we've got 6 and 4, 8 and 3, 12 and 2, and 24 and 1. Which one of those subtract together to give us 2? Well, if we go through this, none of those do. Here's the one that does. 6 and 4. Since this is positive here, the 6 is going to go here. The 4 is going to be the minus. And then we can always check it. X squared minus 4x plus 6x gives us a positive 2x minus 24. And then that still equals 0. Because we factored it, now we can be able to solve for x. And what we do is we set each one of these factors equal to 0. And then we solve for these. Subtract the 6 over, x equals negative 6, and x equals positive 4. You can always check those by throwing it back into the equation to see that it works. 36 minus 12 is 24, minus 24 is 0, so this one works. Throw the 4 in, 16 plus 8 is 24, minus 24 is 0 also, so that also works. With our next one, an artist wants to make a regular tapestry with an area of 250 square feet, whose length and width are in the ratio 1.6 to 1. What length and width should she use? Well, what we know for sure is we know the area equation for a rectangle. It is length times width equals the total area. We've got two variables though, so we've got to come up with a second equation. Well, that's where this ratio comes up. All right, we've got length and width are in the ratio of 1.6 to 1. Well, the ratio length divided by width equals 1.6 to 1. Notice length is first and then width is second, so that's why I've got length over width. 1.6 to 1, that 1.6 goes on top, the 1 goes on bottom. From there, we just cross multiply to make this a nice easier equation. We see that L equals 1.6W. From here, if we use substitution, we see that L equals this. So I can throw this in here for L, and then I'll be able to solve the problem. I've got 1.6W times W equals 250. Well, these W's can be multiplied together to give us 1.6W squared equals 250. If I divide 250 divided by 1.6, I can get an answer of W squared equals 156.25. And then if I take the square root of that, I end up with my width equals 12.5. From there, I've still got to come up with length. Well, it looks like the easiest would be to throw our W in here to this equation and take the 12.5 times 1.6 to get a total of 20. And then if you wanted to, you could throw both of these back in here. 12.5 times 20 does give us 250, so then it does work. The only thing that we're missing is a label. We've got square feet up here for our area, so that tells us both of these are also in feet. So our dimensions for this tapestry is 12.5 feet by 20 feet. Any questions on factoring, please let us know.